Okay, so good morning, everyone. This is, I'm Kinle Doji, in case anyone doesn't know. Okay, so I want to, by way of introducing both this conversation and the Druk Journal. So I'll be very short. What we want to do is really, we here want to speak less. We want to hear the students more. We want to hear the questions, aspirations of the students. Okay, the Druk Journal we publish twice a year. Each Druk Journal has a specific theme. And that theme is, we select a theme which is national priority at that stage. So this particular issue which you've received and hopefully you've read, is the theme is technology, Bhutan in the age of technology. Basically, in short, it means how do we deal with technology? Since with the you know all the terminology, the way in the fourth industrial generation, and this has been prioritized. His Majesty's royal addresses have emphasized technology for Bhutan. The government has prioritized technology, and perhaps even more important, the technology is moving ahead. The world is become so high tech. We're a little worried that technology is taking over human beings even. And I just mean that a little lightly, of course. But it is, I think, concern among some people. So the idea is that each time we come up with an issue of the Druk Journal, we get together in a conversation. So rather than a speech and discussion and conference, what we do is we sit around, normally we sit around a room and just talk about this issue. We ask some of the writers of that particular issue to come and describe summarize the articles, so to speak. So that's why we call it a conversation and not a discussion or a meeting. Okay, so let me introduce the writers for this particular issue. We have Gyalpozhing, DITT, DG. Director. Okay, Director, DITT. And in many ways, at the helm of Digital Druk Journal. We'll ask him to explain Digital Druk Journal. This is DIT of the Ministry of Information Communication. Ujwal sitting next to me is from DHI. He's starting the Department of Innovation and Technology of DHI. We'll ask him to explain what that is about. And then Kinle Renchin from RUB. And Kinle Renchin has actually, as you've probably seen, written an article on the IT education tertiary institutions. With this, we're talking about IT education in the whole entire education system of Bhutan. Now, in this particular conversation today, we have four very special guests, and I call them special guests because they are senior representatives of our political parties. So, in other words, it's not just academic. We have the decision makers, we have party representatives with us. We're going to ask them to say, be a very brief view, express a brief view on their view of technology, what they think of technology, or what's happening, what's not happening here in the country in terms of technology. We have Karmalote from BKP. By the way, I'm being politically correct and doing this alphabetical order, not favoritism. Kilawanchi from DNT. We have Sangyapurba DPT and Sonam Jamso PDB.
The Digital Druk Journal flagship program is an aspiration of the government to transform the way that government delivers services. Although we have used technology to try to transform the way that services are delivered, we haven't actually had a holistic approach to using technology in this way, where our citizens are, whether they live in the capital city, where they have easy access to government offices, or whether they are in remote villages. One unifier is that if you have access to a computer, if we have access to internet, and we provide our services online, then we will be able to provide the same quality and same access to services using technology and online services. And to arrive at this state, we have learned from the many experiences of the past. We have tried and we've experimented with online services, investments in infrastructure, etc. And from the learnings of the past, we have derived this approach. So, first and foremost, the main objective would be in breaking down the man-made silos that currently make government agencies work independently. One of the objectives is to actually try to get government agencies to work collectively to provide services that are specifically focused towards what the citizen needs rather than what the government delivers. We also realize that connectivity is not universal, and a large portion of the flagship focuses on taking connectivity to as much of population as possible. So we are aspiring to connect all our schools so that our children can leverage technology productively to enhance learning. We are connecting our hospitals so that it can leverage technology to improve how healthcare is delivered, and so on and so forth. We also realize that capability and capacity in its broadest sense is also something that we need to focus on. And as part of this flagship program, we also have programs dedicated towards building the capability of our small domestic private sector, also in terms of building the capability of our IT professionals in the public sector, as well as we also focus on building digital literacy within the public itself. I mean, we cannot focus on making services online, digitizing, etc. If the people that the services are intended for are unable to utilize this service. So broadly speaking, these are the areas that digital Druk covers. Definitely along the way, we believe that there will be a lot of learnings. There will be regulations, there will be laws that will have to be reviewed. But ultimately, this is what we aspire to do.
The department was very new. It's called the Innovation and Technology Department at DHI. And it was very obvious that we are looking for a pathway in Bhutan, largely. It's important that we have a strategic plan as we move ahead in terms of how do we strategize technology, how do we invest the resources that we have in the right way, at least so that we have a short, medium, and long-term plan. And the first thing that strikes to me is that we have to really understand and read a lot of the history of other nations. I think there's a lot to learn from there, and that should be the first step, I would say. And so that forms one of our bases, and especially to students from Gyalpozhing School, I cannot recommend enough for you all to please read The Startup Nation, the book, and please reach out to us at DHI, to me, to my team, at any point in time. We have had about 4 or 5 interns who are working with us right now at DHI in the Innovation and Technology Department. So please reach out to us in talking about, pathways, finding a Bhutanese pathway, and in contributing to that. So the first thing is, of course, mapping, and we are strategizing to do that in DHI through the department. The other thing that is important, and especially to the students from Gyalpozhing and all the from RUB and the technology institutes would be interesting, is we have started a center for research and development at DHI, which is called the Drive Center. We call it DHI Research and Innovation Venture Excellence. Right now, we are very modest. We have just started with small programs, and we are looking at applied as well as fundamental research eventually as a national research center there. We just have 4 people working right now, but we are very open for collaboration, very, very open for collaboration nationally and internationally to take certain, technology and develop intellectual property, national intellectual property at the Drive Center at DHI. So that's another point I thought is important, and we can all work together towards developing technology. Right now, we're working on smart city projects. We have a collaboration with MIT to set up the Super Fab Lab. We are working on some of other research projects with MIT, but at a very, very basic first steps. One of the last points that I would also want to mention is going forward, I think investments are important. Venture capital funds for taking these research into businesses are important, and we are also looking at that aspect. And COVID-19 situation has given positives and negatives in terms of our thought processes. And one thing we do want to really mention is that we invest not only to restore and move on, but we need to look at the future and see how we can strategically plan our investments moving ahead, especially in the area of technology right now.
I would like to start from where Tasha has left in the beginning with regard to where we are right now, Industry 4.0, where the technology is at the core and technology is bringing about a lot of changes and killing a lot of jobs. So these things are happening, and the education sector, and particularly higher education sector, RUB, is trying to be cognizant of this fact, the changing shift that is happening around the world, and that's also happening here in Bhutan too. So there are a lot of challenges posed with this new change. But we also saw of late that there are even greater opportunities with the technology, particularly in this pandemic, in this session, when all things get disrupted. Particularly in RUB, we are happy to see that technology has helped us continue with teaching, learning. Although we are facing some challenges, but our students are still continuing with their classes online through the virtual learning environment. So we are grappling, but we are also facing other challenges. But it also exposes us to other opportunities that we can learn and then improve ourselves. So we see these things happening, and a lot of with this technology, a lot of challenges, but at the same time, a lot of opportunities also. So in such case, the education system has to again make sure that it plays its role in terms of addressing, in terms of contributing towards this national goal. So we see at the school education level, one of the flagship programs is digitizing schools, where students will learn Python. So as they progress up and get into higher education, RUB should be prepared to advance this and make sure that we also help them learn more and even become better. So what has happened is, again, following His Majesty's command and wisdom, RUB is now leaning more towards technology-based programs. Currently, we have about 1,000 students in various IT and technology-allied programs around the colleges. And very soon, with the continuous expansion of GCIT, like Gyalpozhing College, with new programs such as Cybersecurity programs, also at Helvetas College, the data science programs, we are expecting that this number will increase. In few years, it will be increased to about 2,000 students taking up such IT and IT-related courses. So through this, as a university, the biggest university in the country, we feel that we should be like any other universities around the world, addressing and trying to contribute to the national development in 2 ways. First is our faculty, our students doing research and coming up with technology-related solutions so that we can contribute to the technological development aspects directly. And the other aspect is grooming our youth, our students, and preparing for the future human resource requirement of the country. And that is how we are leaning towards more STEM-related programs, and particularly IT. But when we talk about this HR and employment, currently there is a big debate about university graduates not getting jobs and so on. So knowing this, we are now trying to see, and that is why we are leaning more towards STEM and technology related, because the future is more into that. We hope that there will be more opportunities for students having graduated with such relevant skills and knowledge. So we see two things. First, prepare our students for the national need wherever required, particularly with technology background. So cybersecurity, the IBSA, IT, engineering, even hardware part through Jiminamgil Engineering College. So such as mechatronics too are in the pipeline and in discussion. That would be one, so that we can contribute. Number two is, again, with the increasing number of graduates and also decreasing the opportunities within the country, we saw an opportunity to allow them to participate in international job market. But when we talk about international job market, we saw that the gig economy is expanding all around the world. So currently, our government is facilitating our students, our children, particularly youth, to go outside and take up jobs, but the jobs that they are taking are not really favorable, and it leads to some social issues. So what we thought about is, if people are able to develop with relevant skills that would be required elsewhere, with expansion of gig economy, like Bangladesh, where currently they have about 600,000 freelancers, IT. They are operating and working from Bangladesh, but for the firms outside. And that way they are able to bring in the money and steer the economy, and at the same time address unemployment issues within the country. We thought that would be the way forward, and RB is trying to see how we can expand such opportunities with our graduates, so that our graduates will be able to get employed, work for others, but at the same time remain within the country and also bring in money. So there are opportunities like this. But not limited to the third, very important is, when the economy is getting digitized more into digital aspect, we see the entrepreneurship opportunities. So in each college, including GCIT, CST, we're developing Fab Labs, and also the discussions is happening about creating business incubation centers, so that our students will be able to be technopreneurs, because through that, they will be able to not only get employed themselves, but also create employment for opportunities. So employment opportunities for others. So we see such opportunities. So RUB is trying to take up those major initiatives, so that we'll be able to contribute and align with the national goals and objectives.
Now, I'd like to start with the students. The focus today, as I said, we should be mostly on our future generation. Okay, any questions, folks?
I'm Yezir Chuki from Gyalpozhing College of Information Technology, third year. My question here is about the equality in the rural places. As mentioned by the director of DITT, they are planning for the digital equality, digital literacy in all over Bhutan, but in rural places, how do you plan to go about that? Because there are limited technologies there, and it is true that there is limited connections of internet facilities also. So how do you go about equality in rural places?
When we talk about equality in the rural places, the focus first and foremost is actually providing access to connectivity. And with regard to that, as I mentioned, a large portion of the total resource envelope allocated for the flagship program is towards increasing connectivity. So we believe that through this initiative, we would be taking connectivity much closer to our rural folks. The second aspect is with regard to know-how. Definitely, I understand that some of our folks in rural Bhutan do not have the capability to actually make use of technologies, and therefore a portion of the budget has been allocated to building these capabilities among the rural population. And we understand that we do have Bhutanese who are not literate, and we have, through experience, realized that even though you don't have formal literacy, we can still take advantage of technologies. I mean, as long as the technology is easy to use and there is adequate trainings to ensure that people have the proficiency in using those technologies. So one of the strategies that we are also looking to use is to leverage the students who are actually already literate and are much more easily trainable on these digital technologies. And
Students, you mean students in the schools in the rural areas?
yes, the schools. So we actually train the students, and they in turn actually teach their parents on how to make use of these technologies. Lastly, the focus is on how can we actually make access to the internet much more affordable, and of course that is almost sort of a chicken and egg kind of problem, because we realize that the more we use it, the cheaper it becomes, and therefore we need to see how can we actually get more of our people to use more of the internet. And besides that, we also will be focusing on regulatory measures to actually bring down the cost of connectivity for our people. So hopefully with this, definitely we agree that it's not going to be 100%, but we feel that it would cover quite substantial portion of the population. In Bhutan, we realized that the mobile phone, as in most developing economies, is the preferred choice, and therefore the immediate focus will be on spreading the mobile phone coverage. But definitely we need to think also midterm and long term, and the most resilient infrastructure would be fiber. So the longer term focus will be on extending fiber.
I think the question is very specific to the Digital Druk Journal Director. Thank you for taking such a big initiative. I mean, it has been a concern and also an aspiration of His Majesty, being part of the 21st century, that we have to move forward with the digital world. But there, I think, well, given the capacity and also the size of a country, and of course we are trying to do it things in our own very small little ways. But my concern yesterday, I mean, I had a brief talk with Dasho as well, is the security, the concern, the cyber security, in terms of are there any contingency plans that are being prepared, or are these security issues being talked about and thrashed out before coming down into a proposal as a plan, to the government in terms of implementing it as a policy? Because I mean, it's a double-edged sword. There is every possibility. With a lot of advantage, it has a lot of disadvantages as well. And given the fact that Bhutan's, although we claim that we have a, literacy rate of almost like 50 to 60%, but in order to being able to implement it, we may be far behind in terms of understanding the technology itself. Although it may benefit us, but actually we may be alongside. There are a lot of other issues that tag along with this technology. And is there any kind of sort of a proposal thought about from the Druk Digital in order to address these security issues in the event people fall into, for instance, like I said, the cyber scam, security, the bullying, the social media addictions? There are so many things, the list can go on. So have this being thought about in while trying to put down it as a policy recommendation?
As part of Digital Druk Journal, definitely cybersecurity is a major concern. And whenever we adopt any technology, we do focus on security to a large extent. And one of the major programs as part of this Digital Druk flagship is focusing on establishing a digital identity. This digital identity is based on the highest levels of security that is being adopted in the European Union. So any interaction between the public to these online resources that we will be making available would be through this digital identity, which would be secured at the highest levels of security possible. Besides that, we are also focusing on building cybersecurity competency within the country itself. And as I mentioned, one of the broad areas that we are focusing on is on building capability within the country. And one subcomponent of that capability would be definitely in building our own cybersecurity capabilities. When it comes to cybersecurity, nothing is 100%. What we can do is we can aspire to ensure that we cover as many of the holes as possible. There may be a possibility that something can happen. And to circumvent such kind of incidences, we still look at business continuity plans. We ensure that we look at redundancies to ensure that backups are maintained, backup of backups are maintained. The way that I see it is investing into digitalization is something that we don't have a choice. We cannot say that because we don't have 100% proof for cybersecurity that we cannot digitalize government services. Because if you really think about it, the public is actually much more digital than we are. Majority of the services that the public interacts with, for example, going on social media, using Google Mail, Zoom, etc., which we are currently using, is essentially all digital tools. And the fact that our public, more than 600,000 of the public actually has access to smartphones, which essentially means that they are availing the internet, means that the government is currently far behind. And we do need to make interventions into this area so that we can learn very quickly and adapt to this, unfortunately, fully digital world already.
Just by way of conclusion, I'd like to thank everyone. I think this leaves me at least, and I'm sure all of us, very optimistic. I think we have succeeded. We have done a very successful digital conference, stretching from Gyalpozhing to Thimphu and different parts of Thimphu, people sitting in different rooms, different houses, different districts. Thank you very much. We are quite encouraged Digital Druk, and thank you to Jigme, both for this, for the being at the helm of digitizing Bhutan, and for example, allowing us to do this here. This is proof that it works and it can work. Thank you very much to our, of course, our contributors, and then to our political guests. I keep saying political guests, but friends. We didn't see you as politicians. Thank you for not campaigning this morning during this conference. And in fact, rather than campaigning, thank you for adding so much meaning to this conversation. That there was a number of very, very profound points, issues that were brought up by you. And we are glad that the country is in your hands as political leaders. We are optimistic. Students, thank you very much. We would have liked to hear a little more, but keep this in mind. Please keep talking. Please, this country, this legacy is going to be in your hands. The fourth generation industrial revolution is really going to be your life, your culture. But as a number of people have said, please don't forget the Bhutanese identity, that our GNH and what we really stand for.